All right, guys, welcome in. Welcome in, YouTube. We got Johnny here. We got Blake. We're going to throw you into a mock draft. This is randomized right off the dome. This is nothing we've practiced. We're going to just see where we go and go from there. So, Johnny, take us in.
What's going on, guys? You see me? I'm in here. We've got Sleeper app up. We're playing a 12-team draft, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, flex 1 spot, 1 QB, and me, Blake, and John here. And we're gonna be drafting with some bots, but we're gonna randomize between the 3 of us, see where we're at in the draft. Can I get like a little bit of a drum roll of sorts? Okay. All right. Here
Oh, I
we
got a
go.
4.
We
I
got
like 4.
John at
Taking
pick
8.
4, Blake at pick 8, me at
I'm
10.
excited about 8.
Okay.
Eight's generally like one of the tougher spots. You don't get that high end talent, and you don't get the 2 back end players. But I'm excited to take a crack at it.
All right, Johnny, so let's start us off.
Okay. I personally, I don't think any of us got. I like the later picks in this draft for some reason. I think there's it's deep. All of the first 8 to even 10 picks could all make a case for being the overall like number 1 fantasy player. I mean, obviously you've got a bit higher chance with the top end guys, but I think it's a good year to have if you're looking to if you can somehow claim a later spot. I don't hate it. All right, let's start it. Let's see who the bots take. Are you sure you want to start it? Yeah, let's do it.
Pretty sure.
C-Mac. C-Mac went overall. Wow.
All right, so this is obviously, I think we all agree that McCaffrey and Jefferson are kind of intertwined, 1 and 2. Kelsey at 3 was kind of like a bit of a shock, so kind of giving you where I'm all on Jamar Chase and Eckler. Probably going to be leaning towards Chase because I feel like he's in for a huge season. And I don't think you can really go wrong with Eckler or Chase in this position, drafting at 4. I think we can make a strong case for Cooper Kupp as well. But obviously with his hamstring, he's kind of slid a bit. I've seen him going 3, 4, 5, usually in sleeper, but I think he's slid a bit. So I'm going to go Jamar Chase here. Make it nice, short, and sweet. Pass it off to Blake here.
Dude,
Nice.
I took
Okay.
Jamar Chase at 101 in a mock.
Yeah.
Just because, like, personally, I think he's got a better QB throwing at him than Jefferson. He's got better top end talent. Like, just a little bit. I don't know.
For me, and I was going to say the same thing. Jefferson's my number 1 this year, just because I want that. He seems about the most surefire guy to put up
100%.
points. There's a handful of guys that you think are going to have monster seasons, but Jefferson I think is the safest pick. And then for me, I'm taking Chase at number 2, like you said, better quarterback, absolute stud, talent's there. I think he might have so far his best year of his career this year.
He's due.
And then for me, I'm taking Tyreek at 3. To be honest with you guys, like I'm a little worried about the hamstring from Kupp. He returned to practice this week, which is good to hear, but just the question marks surrounding Stafford, shoulder, back issues. I think he'll just have those high ceiling games. I think his floor is a little bit better this year too. So he'll definitely someone that I would throw in the top 3. But now that we're picking at 8, a lot of guys still left, a lot of talent still here. If I was on the clock and this was a real draft and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, obviously if I'm at 8, for me personally, like there's an possibility that Hill falls to me, and that would be a dream scenario at 8 for me. Right now, trying to pick between. For me, it would probably be a 3-way decision between Bijan, Kupp, and Barkley. I like Lamb and A.J. Brown a lot, but I think there's a little bit of a tier break there. So Kupp, like I said, I mean he's an absolute stud. If he's healthy, he's gonna put up a wide receiver 1 season. So I like that possibility. Just especially with, I feel like there's a lot more deeper running backs this year. I think I'd rather take a wide receiver in the first round and then try and stack running backs in like round 3 or 4. I think the dead zone running back this year has expanded a little bit. So I'm gonna go and take Kupp here and pray for a healthy Stafford year and just that offense clicking again.
And by the way, this should have been mentioned from the get-go, but this is a 3 wide receiver mock draft. So
Yes.
This is a one QB, two running back, three wide receiver, one tight end, and one flex spot mock draft. So, Johnny,
Yes, I did call that out, but three wide receivers, yes. And interesting pick. I think one thing maybe we can all agree on is Mahomes. Probably we're all fading him at that pick 13
yeah,
price.
no
Like,
way.
just crazy high for the QB position when you can get someone very similar. I love him as a fantasy player, but seems a little rich. And then, so just, where my thoughts are, uh, I like everything you said. I also won't disagree that like Kelsey should be drafted that high because he's such a difference maker at his position. That like if someone just bona fide took him 101 and they just told me their pitched their whole strategy on it, I'd be like, okay, you know what, fine.
Right.
But
I think in ten
anyways,
team leagues, especially like if you're in a 10 team league and you're not fighting as hard for that wide receiver three, running back three, I think going Kelsey 101 is not crazy. In a 12 team, I think it's a little tougher to try and
yeah,
do
you get a
that.
little deeper talent pool to pick from. Yeah. And so where my head's at here is like, I like picking running backs between like these high end guys. All of these four that I see offer like very high upside. And like what I understand about fantasy football is while we're even playing three wide receivers, so this becomes a little less true, but the having hero running backs, having those high end running backs who can score 20 points a game, that's a bigger difference that from the people who are only scoring 10 points a game is the most of the running backs. And then wide receivers, it's there's a less of a discrepancy between them. You know, the high end guys are scoring 17 and the low end guys are scoring 13. So it's like I want to chase those guys who are going to be big difference makers for me in the lineup. Almost kind of like we're talking about with Kelsey, where it's like you're going to earn an advantage at tight end every week by having him when no one else does. But where I struggle here is with between Bijan and Saquon. I know Bijan's got the higher ADP, but I don't trust Arthur from a fantasy perspective. I loved him with Derrick Henry and stuff, but even then it was like I wanted him to involve him in the pass game more. I think Saquon's going to see a lot of snaps. I really liked what I saw from them in the preseason. I also think like Dayball is a really good coach, and he's going to bring a lot out of these players. Honestly, I think Saquon might even be more talented and still in the prime. So I'm going to go Saquon here, and we're going to live and die by the results.
Yeah, nothing wrong with going Saquon there. I mean, Saquon or Bijan, really. I personally probably would have went Bijan just because I'm that type of guy that loves the rookie risk. But there's going to be people that are going to pass on him just because he hasn't played it down in the NFL. So I get it.
No, I've seen his talent. Like, I've watched a lot of tape. I just think that Saquon might be even more talented personally, and I think he's still in that prime of his career where he could have as good, if not a better season, and it is probably a safer bet. But Blake, any thoughts before I go on to my next pick? Or?
No, I think that's pretty much how I would think about it. I might get a little bit more enticed by the Arthur Smith scheme than you are, just because they're going to run the ball a whole bunch, and I like that volume. I also think they're going to be better than a lot of people think they are going to be this year. But that being said, I think the Giants' offense is definitely prone to take a nice little step forward here. So if you're getting Barkley there, and I think we would all agree that their offense is going to be better. I think if you take a running back in a good offense, it's always better than taking a running back in a suspect offense.
Yep, yep. So, okay, now I am back on the board here, and I'll be honest, I'm struggling a little bit because you guys know I love Derrick Henry. I shared that I think he's a value at this exact price point, but I kind of just planted my flag with a running back, and this is a three wide receiver league. So, what I'm going to do is quickly just kind of sift through and see what it would look like to get something back on this 310 pick where I'd be starting with a wide receiver one with the kind of this tier of players. And I'm really not sure if that's something I'm 100% comfortable with when you look at the fact that there's a guy like Devontae Adams on the board. I love Amon Ra, but I think he's already questionable. He gets a little banged up. He is a smaller guy. Devontae's a freaking beast and one of the most consistent players. I think when you're sitting right here at pick, what is this, 15, and you've got the choice between Derrick Henry
You know
and
you want
Devontae
them.
Adams.
You know you want them.
Well, that's a good problem to have too, right? Like these guys are perennial like top 5 picks in fantasy football, and I get that they're on the age of like people are starting to doubt it, but they haven't given you really any reason to doubt it from a statistical perspective, especially Devonte Adams. Like I get that there's a little hesitation with the new quarterback, but what is this? There's 3, 6, 7 wide receivers taken in front of him. I don't know if I'd be taking AJ Brown in front of him. This is tough for me, guys, because I love Henry. This is like a certified my guy. But now I'm going to look at what kind of running back I'd get on the back end. I think I'm more comfortable dipping into this pool of running backs for my next or running back 2. And I'd love to have a guy like, and honestly, Garrett Wilson, I'm not completely out on either, but I just think Devontae Adams a little more established. I get he's an older guy. I play a lot of Dynasty, but in redraft, I'd love to have a guy like him in year long.
All right.
Yeah,
T9 took Taylor.
Yeah, interesting Taylor pick there. I think we're all sort of waiting and seeing his situation. I mean, if he plays the talents there, he's going to be, you could argue that he would be the second or even third, or third even second running back off the board with a solid situation right now. I was going to fade Taylor there. That's not a hit to me. So I have a similar choice between Jonny, though. I didn't take a running back in the first, so that makes the Derrick Henry pick a little bit more enticing, though I'm not as high on Henry as you are, Jonny. And I am really, really high on Amon-Ra. I think he's an absolute stud. I think with the Jameson Williams suspension, I think he's going to absolutely eat those first 6 weeks. And even once he comes back, I mean, he's the guy there. For me right now, it's between Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson, because I also think Garrett Wilson's an absolute stud. Seen some highlights from him already from camp, getting that connection with Rodgers, and I think he's going to have a really, really big year. But I love Amon-Ra here. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to take Amon-Ra here and pair him with Kupp, and then try and play the 3 wide receiver league the way it's supposed to be played, and get those running backs a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Amon-Ra here. Yeah. So I'm having some Wi-Fi issues really quickly. I'm trying to refresh the page. I put my pick in. If you wanna just go ahead and manually put that in for me,
that in for him.
I can try and figure it out.
No worries.
Yeah, just click the
you gotta click the square.
Yeah.
On the screen.
This.
The one with the yeah. Well, no, that's not it. That's not it. The other square. The highlighted one. There you go. There you go. And then we'll put Brown in there. It's all right. We'll keep it. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, Amon-Ra. That's my pick. Yeah. All right. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, Henry right after.
All right. So.
Hey, now you're on, John.
Henry, Wilson, Josh Allen. Obviously, I wasn't even looking at QBs at this point. Garrett Wilson was probably the guy I was hoping that would fall to me. I'm falling in love with him, and I really think he can have a breakout year. Let's see. I really don't want Waddle. The inconsistency of Waddle last year, I had him in a lot of dynasty leagues. Josh Jacobs is kind of interesting at this point. Mm-hmm. I would probably lean, and I'm not too fond of this idea, I would probably lean Tony Pollard over Josh Jacobs. And that's just because of the offense I think it's going to be this year. I'm not really sure what we're going to be having in Vegas when it comes to an offense. Josh Jacobs definitely had one of the amazing years, and he was probably a league winner for many people down the stretch. But this is a new year, and this is a new offense, and I'm going to lean Tony Pollard. I think he's he carries a little more upside this year than Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs might have a little more floor and security. But this is a mock draft. I'm trying to play to win. I'm going to go Tony Pollard.
I like that pick. Yeah. The thing with Jacobs is that's a lot of carries last year. You have the question marks around the offense, whether or not it gets worse with Jimmy G there. most likely I would imagine that it stays around the same. I don't see too much of a downgrade from Derek Carr to Jimmy G. But I mean, Pollard, there's that stat where if he gets 15 touches a game, I think he gets 18 fantasy points on average. So guys that really had that chance to be the bell cow guy, I think this year's a nice year to have Tony Pollard.
Right, and to be your point, I don't think any of us think he's going to be as efficient as he was the last 2 seasons in the league. He had Zeke coming in and kind of keeping him nice and fresh so he can eat, but he's going to be the main back, and the Cowboys want to run the ball, so let's go Tony Pollard. And kind of going around the horn, Jalen Hurts is another QB that came off the board, and at 303 we had T. Higgins, which is the guy that I wasn't trying to draft at all at that point. I think I'm going to go with one of my guys. I'm going to go with, I'm going to have to, I'm going to go with the Walmart version of Derrick Henry, and I'm going to draft Najee Harris.
You can have him, bro.
I know. Busted 80-yard run and was like, more Najee shares.
To be fair, I really thought about taking Stevenson. I didn't. I really don't mind if somebody values Stevenson over Harris. I get it. You probably have a more passing game work than Harris. But, I'm going to go with a guy that's going to get the volume in the 304 and see what happens. I got my 2 running backs. So
just real quick, too, wasn't ETN one of your guys, too? I mean, you want to talk about the decision? Because you didn't even think about ETN there.
I didn't think about ETN. You're right. And I have more of ETN to me is a little more risky than Harris. I already know what Harris is going to get. He's going to get 20 touches per week. ETN, we've already seen multiple reports of him possibly getting, reduced work, and that kind of scares me. At the 304, I'm gonna try to get the guy that's going to get the volume, and I know he's going to get the volume 100%. So Harris is my guy.
I like Harris more than ETN for the record. And now that I'm on the 308, though, this is a great opportunity for me to talk about a running back who I think is a little bit better than I would rather have. I think for me, of these 4 guys, the guy I'm talking about is Jahmyr Gibbs right now, and I'm thinking about taking him in the middle of the 3rd. For me, that's a tier in of itself between Najee, Stevenson, Etienne, and Gibbs. Maybe throw Mixon in there. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he should have a bunch of volume.
So let me pick your brain, Blake.
Yeah.
You got Brown in the 2nd. You getting Gibbs in the 3rd. Does that change your mind at all?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna lead towards. Basically, yeah, what you're saying is trying to avoid players on the same team, especially this early in the draft, back to back in the 2nd and 3rd. Normally, let's say Adams falls to me there at the 205. I think I'm smashing Gibbs here, but the fact that I did take Amon-Ra makes me second guess, and I'm thinking a little bit more about it. And once again, I mean, there's still guys here that I really, really like. There's one guy in particular that I think I'm going to go for over Gibbs just because he's still there, and that's Devontae Smith, especially in the 3 wide receiver format. Once again, I'm a big fan of Devontae. I think he's really, really talented. I think the fact that he's still there halfway through the 3rd is a mistake, and I think it's sacrilege, and I'm going to go ahead and punish these stupid bots. I'm going to go ahead and punish these stupid bots for leaving them there for me, especially in this 3 wide receiver league. I think it makes a whole lot of sense to take a guy in a high passing offense who's really, really young and really, really talented.
All right. I like it. Right after that, Team 9 took Burrow, probably way too early for a QB.
Yeah, that's so weird.
But these are where people are drafting them. These ADPs are here. They're baked in because people are actually drafting them at these prices. So
I haven't seen
Burrow is actually a lot higher than I thought. He's usually more in the middle of the 4th, but I guess he's going
Burrow
early.
Going there in the 3rd. I don't see him going there usually. I was going to say earlier, I'm usually one to fade quarterbacks really early, but I do think there's a massive tier break, like after Olave, Jacobs, Pollard in the 2nd round, to where like if I'm at the turn on the 2-3 turn, this is the first year where I'm considering going like, I'm assuming Mahomes is already gone, but I would consider Hurts or Allen at the 2-3 turn this year just because I think there's a massive tier break, and there's a lot to be said about the discrepancy between QB1 and QB10. There's like a huge difference between the top 3 guys and what you get after. So I think that's also positional value. But Joe Burrow in the 3rd, I don't like at all.
Johnny, you're up. What are you thinking? Take me in your mind.
It's going through my head right now because I'm like, man, if he's not saying Lamar doesn't have that type of upside, then I don't know who does. I think he could, do a lot this year if he stays healthy. That's my problem with him. Why he's probably a fade for me at this pick. Uh, I am enamored by Gibbs. I'll admit it. I will him. I'd pick him over Call here because just of the injury and them signing Cook. No slight to Hall's like long term talent. I'm fading Debo here. I'd probably prefer Ayuk in that offense at the price. And then Ridley's interesting to me. Mixon is interesting to me. But then I start looking at what I'm going to be getting at this next pick and what, like maybe who I'm going to fall or who's going to fall. And I'm trying to see kind of the tier breaks to what Blake is talking about. And, I don't hate being able to snag Kenneth Walker with the next pick. So where was I? Looking at where I'm going to draft, who I'm going to draft next, what I'm going to do, my every move. Very tough decisions to make.
These are where I would say these are where fantasy drafts are won and lost right here in the third and fourth rounds when you're deciding between, tier three, tier four players, a lot of who, you think are going to have big years, but how do you decide between, it's like splitting hairs and sometimes it comes down to fate. So I'm
So
interested to
I
see what you do.
know I'm not going to get Gibbs again if I don't take him now. And I think this is to your point where they're won and they're lost, and there's upside here to chase. And PPR upside, difference maker running back, like I talked about when I took Barkley as a running back in the first round. You get two guys who are difference makers at running back, you significantly increase your chances to win. So, Mixon's there. He's interesting. But he looks more like a jag every time I watch him run the football. Like he just doesn't excite me. Gibbs is someone I'd root for on Sundays.
Gibbs is a
Really,
sexy
Lamar,
pick.
yeah, I think he is, and I think I'm gonna take it. I was gonna say I like Lamar. I think he is a difference maker. I think he's a good QB. If you're taking Burrow right there, you should take a QB who can run. And so now I'm back, and it worked exactly how I wanted. And this is again somewhat realistic. I didn't want. I was okay with spilling my beans to you guys because I knew none of you would snipe me. But it's like I think Ridley has been overpriced in some drafts, right? But like right here, right now, I don't hate it. Fourth round in a 12 team, um, and you've got Keenan Allen there. You've got Cooper. Like there's a certain kind of McLaurin's actually kind of interesting too because I think Howell could be decent, but I think this is like he's a high end again when we're chasing that upside, like
This
very
is the tier break on upside
interesting.
right here.
I like, I like. I know we talked about how much we like Kirk, but I think we all agreed like we like that whole offense, and I don't think any of us know exactly how it's going to unfold. I do worry about Ridley taking a year off from football and his ability to stay healthy. But again, in a three wide receiver league, I've kind of got my two running backs that I'm trying to build around, and I'm starting to look at like who I would take here, and I think there's a lot of good options. You guys know I love Judy, but I do think this is just like a little rich for my blood with just the quality of the Broncos offense last year. Cooper, I've always liked him, but he's just kind of doesn't present that high upside to me. I love Hopkins as well, but just same with Tennessee. So I think I'm leaning Ridley here, and I'm just gonna live and die with it. Uh, and Blake, now we're on to you. I don't think I didn't snipe you there, did I? Because I don't think you would have taken Ridley.
No, I do like Ridley there. I have him a little bit below Cooper, Amari. I think Amari's going to have a really nice year in that Browns offense with Deshaun bouncing back, but it's a 1A, 1B thing for me. But and those two guys I would have just a bit above Keenan there. So I like Ridley a lot. And now that I'm on the clock here in the fourth round, I've gone wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. This in a lot of drafts, if I'm looking at let's say Lamar Jackson's here, now it would be a really interesting decision to make if I want to go zero running back or if I want to start taking running backs. There are some nice running backs still on the board. And I think a lot of people would get really nervous here just because it's like, how do you possibly choose between these running backs? They're all Talent wise, we've seen Aaron Jones be a top 5 back for a long time in the league. We have Kenneth Walker, who should be a top 5 back, but they drafted Charbonnet obviously very early. This is a little bit of an easier pick for me, just because you guys know this, I absolutely love Kenneth Walker still in the 4th round for the value. I know Charbs is there, and he's going to eat into the work a little bit. He does look good in preseason. Charbonnet did look good in their second game, but Walker's too talented. Do yourselves a favor and go check out his highlight reel. I mean, he just does things in terms of flexibility, moving his body, cutting in and out, and combine that with his patience and contact balance. I just think with that level of talent and that skill set, a little hit on the volume isn't going to dismantle his entire season. And I'm getting him in the 4th round here. I'm not going to think about this pick any longer. I'm just going to go ahead and take Kenneth Walker.
So let me ask you something, Blake. Ken Walker in the 4th. Looks like you went 3 wide receivers. Obviously, this is kind of like the 0 RB strategy a little bit. Maybe not totally, because you're drafting a running back in the 4th. But let's just say you have drafted, I don't know, Barkley and Taylor. Would you still have thought about Ken Walker here in the 4th?
No, just because I like Amari Cooper. So let's say Cooper's off the board and it's Ridley or Walker. It's a little tougher for me. But I'd still, in a 3 wide receiver league, I would go wide receiver here if I had to split to go 2-2 rather than 3-1. But yeah, I think and just one more point. These are the last 2 guys that I'm comfortable with taking as a running back. One is Walker and Aaron Jones. I don't
agree
want
with
to
that.
go ahead into my season with like Dameon Pierce as my RB1. The only exception to that is, let's say Lamar Jackson's here, which actually, because the guy that I really like, if you're going to wait even longer, is Dobbins. But I'm not going to take Lamar and Dobbins in the same draft. That just caps your upside. The goal line work is you can't get excited for that. Well, a touchdown means the other guy didn't get the touchdown. So, I mean, like the difference is like maybe I would go another wide receiver here if I was really feeling crazy. Let's say it was like a half PPR for running backs, full PPR for wide receiver, and a 3 wide receiver 3 wide receiver roster. I would maybe consider going Cooper there, and then maybe even Fields in the 5th, and then trying to get like Waller in the 6th, and then going super late with the running backs.
Don't reveal too much of your cards, Bubba.
just trying to walk through the different options there in the middle of the 4th.
Well, I will say, to your point here, I am looking at Justin Fields and Justin Herbert. I'm not a huge fan of Fields in the 4th. It kind of feels a little risky for me. I understand he had huge upside last year with his legs, but I want more of a secure option at QB. I feel like Herbert's a lot safer, but I think I'm going to play the ADP game. I'm going to see which one falls to me. And I'm thinking about taking Amari Cooper here. I do need a wide receiver. I've already taken my 2 running backs. I think he's a solid option. Deshaun Watson should be much better this year. So I'm going to take Amari Cooper right here at the 409.
Damn, and it looks like you're going to get the quarterback maybe.
And
no,
oh wow, Lord.
And I don't know where Trevor Lawrence came from. I don't know why he was. That was kind of random.
I think he went from 72 to 53 in the last like 2 weeks or so, or 52 or something.
In the preseason, and people just lose their shit. Like,
yeah, I mean,
getting him out of the way, dude. He's getting him out of the way. He's going to be money in the regular season.
I personally don't have a very maybe people kind of feel this like silly, but Justin Herbert and Lawrence, I kind of have them almost in the same tier. I think Lawrence right now, we're all waiting for him to have that gigantic season, and I think most people are hoping it's going to be this year. But I wouldn't have took him over Herbert, and I'm not going to let Herbert fall any longer. I'm going to get my QB right here and there. I think it's a long way away if I want to wait a couple more rounds. If I don't get Herbert here.
Next guy on the board's Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
that's a huge tier, right?
So this is probably the last guy in this tier that I'm really feeling good about, and I feel comfortable. And I'm gonna go Justin Herbert. He potentially has an MVP season. We'll see.
All right. So 5th round. This is I would have to say the toughest round for me to draft in, and it's because it's a good problem to have. There's just so many guys here that I like for their value. Let's say, okay, so Judy and London are off the board. Sometimes they fall, and those are two very strong possibilities. I would take either of those players here without thinking about it. Since they're off the board, there are at least 3, 4, or maybe even 5 players here that I would absolutely love to have. So Miles Sanders is top of the ADP. I'm going to fade him. I don't like Miles Sanders. I think new situation is always a question mark. It's a good situation. He got as good of news as he possibly could have this offseason, signing with Carolina with that deal and to be the guy there. But if I'm going to go running back here, I like J.K. Dobbins a lot more. I think he's more talented. He's in a better offense overall, and I think they're better at running the ball, obviously, with Lamar there in that scheme. I think Dobbins would be the guy for me. And I probably will take Dobbins just because I need that RB2 right here, and I haven't gone 0 running back. But in my head, it's really hard for me not to consider a guy like Christian Watson. With the measurables, the height, the speed, the athleticism, and the Green Bay offense looks really, really good in the preseason. I know it's preseason, but they've been firing on all cylinders. Dubs looks like he is coming on as well. So maybe that lets you fade Watson a little bit more, seeing as how there might be more target competition there. But I think Watson's going to have a really, really nice year. So for me, it would be between those 2 players. But since I need a running back, I'm going to go Dobbins here.
And to your credit, I absolutely love Dobbins, and he's basically going in the end of the 5th, which is a great price. And I think that price is baked into him not showing up to training camp. He's in a new offense. Those are my concerns right now. I've cooled down on my Dobbins hype. I had him probably over Aaron Jones maybe a month and a half ago, but I had to cool down.
Yeah, I cooled down a little bit as well, but I think for me and the community itself, these like last few weeks before the season starts, I think his ADP is going to keep rising just because he's back in camp, and he's not going to play in the preseason. But I mean, I don't really think. I mean, he could use some reps, but I think he'll be fine once the season starts, and that offense is going to be clicking. So I like Dobbins there a lot for sure.
All right. After Dobbins, it was Miles Sanders at Team 9, and now we got Jonny on the clock. We'll go through your mind, Jonny.
Dude, this is, to your point, a tough spot in the draft just because so much going on. I'm looking at the guy after me, this bot, who's picked 3 running backs in the wide receiver league, and I'm thinking to myself, still don't hate the value he got any of these picks at, really.
Yeah.
So it's more just I know he's going wide receiver probably here right next, and so I still need a 3rd wide receiver. I think Watson's a really intriguing pick. Kamara is a great value here, right? I think any of these 3 tight ends after them, it starts to become slim pickings. Except I did tell you guys I like Ingram a little bit later. He's someone I might keep my eye on, see if he falls to me. But I might shake things up here a bit because, again, I am looking to get a 3rd wide receiver. I love Watson's like high-end gazelle-like speed, but I think that Godwin might be a little bit more of an elite route runner, target earner. I think this is a suppressed ADP, like especially when you look at how good he did last year. Some might call this a reach, but again, I'm betting that if I take Watson here, that Godwin's probably gone in these next 4 picks because these guys kind of need a 3rd wide receiver. Again, I'm also assuming they're not stupid bots. So I don't know, guys.
He might want a 4th running back. You don't know.
Dude, I've seen him take. I've seen bots on this app take like 5 running backs in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes running backs, to be honest.
Yeah. So, and this is weird when I look at this. Points projected, right? That's what projections are. Points 202. Godwin 245. So it seems like people are not drafting him. To me, maybe I'm a contrarian. I think this is the part of the draft where Chris Godwin needs to
go get your man, bro.
And I'm back. And Watson is gone. He was picked next. But again, maybe that's just because they were playing the ADP game. So they took some tight ends. Pitts is still there, which is honestly somewhat interesting for me. Ayuk is there. I would love to snipe Blake right here. Um, uh, we'll just have to see. I'm gonna look, kind of stack up the tight ends again, like I said, see what might happen here.
I also think it's kind of interesting that this might be one of the first drafts I saw Goddard taking before Kyle Pitts, and obviously the ADP doesn't reflect that in most cases. I actually made a video the other day about passing on Kyle Pitts to get Goddard around later, and it looks like right now they're going back to back, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So Goddard has kind of climbed up a little bit right next to Kyle Pitts in this ADP game.
Well, and I absolutely love Kyle Pitts. Like I'm a Gators kind of guy. Like my wife went to UF, so but like I just don't know if this is his year coming back from the MCL injury, and I just think like we need to not not invest our fifth pick or our sixth pick here. You know what I mean? And if he gets maybe a seventh round, like that feels like it really. I'd be very happy. I know he's not going to fall that far, but.
I think it's going to take Arthur Smith
Crazy.
leaving the Falcons for Kyle Pitts to be unleashed.
Or him leaving. I said
Or yeah,
Kyle Pitt's best years might come when he's like 26, right? Like, who are we to judge? So, okay, I've got three wide receivers, two running backs. You know, honestly, like, I love a good James Conner, too. We've talked about that. I love Ayuk here. This is tough. I think the three wide receiver makes me want to lean Ayuk pretty heavily. I'm definitely fading Pittman. I'm fading Mike Williams and Brown, fading Evans. I've liked what I've seen from Pickens, obviously, in the preseason, but I think you start to see that it gets a little more grim at wide receiver here. And Ayuk's in a really great offense, good offensive line. I could throw touchdowns behind that offensive line. Uh, so I think that makes me want to lean wide receiver. But I'm just taking a look at kind of what might be available to me later at running back. And I don't hate it, you know. Brian Robinson didn't look that bad tonight or last night, Blake.
Yeah, I saw
I'll
that.
give you that.
oh no, not the
It's like
Brian
a nice little
Robinson.
test.
This year's Josh Jacobs. Okay, wait. Let me just double check. I'm not going crazy.
All right.
Okay, Ayuk here. There we go, boys.
So yeah, that's a
Did
pretty hard snipe. Obviously, Ayuk is definitely the guy I would have gone with. He's one of my favorite players this year, especially he's my favorite sixth round pick. But he hasn't been going in the sixth. I'm not expecting to get him there in my actual redraft leagues. He's been creeping up into the fifth round. I saw him go consistently in the fourth round the last couple of weeks. Just people reaching for him. I saw him go ahead of Debo a couple drafts. For what it's worth, I don't know if I would do that if I'm that bullish, but yeah, Ayuk there is a good pick, and now that makes me a little bit. I have to kind of question what I'm doing now. What's good is that I have maximum flexibility. I have the three wide receiver, two running back build, so I can basically fill my flex with whatever position I want. Um, Fortunately, here there's not a really good value on quarterback, and I'm fading Pitts this year pretty completely. I don't think he looks like he's lumbering. I just the eye test what I've seen from camp and in the preseason. I'm not ready to take a guy with health concerns on a run first offense. So I'm not even really thinking about Pitts here. There's some running backs that I like. Cam Akers is very interesting. He had a great end to last season. I think he was running back 5 overall for the last 4 or 5 weeks. He finished the year really nicely, and people forget it was him and Jonathan Taylor in that draft. Like people were drafting Akers over Taylor. The talent's always been there. He's a really good player. Kind of like similar to Ayuk. He's gotten in these weird sort of coaching. I don't know, like fallen out of favor with the coaching staff for whatever reason, but I think they like Akers. They were ready to give him the feature role before he tore that Achilles. I think there's enough time since coming back from that Achilles to where I would feel pretty good about him here. Like you said, James Conner's there. He is going to get a ton of volume this year in a really bad offense, though. And I don't necessarily like taking running backs in offenses that can't move the ball. So I probably don't like Conner any more than Akers. Don't like Michael Pittman. Dalvin Cook's interesting. I like Dalvin Cook at ADP right now, but I think I would still take Akers over Cook for just to get somebody who's going to get 100% of their backfield touches. So that leaves it between Akers and a player that I really, really like. We talked a little bit about him earlier, which is Christian Kirk. Ridley's going in the third, fourth round as the wide receiver one on that team, but I think the gap between him and Kirk is much smaller than third, fourth round to the middle of the sixth. I think Kirk is a really nice player in his own right, and the only thing that I would think about is who's going to be more surefire at this stage. I'm looking for a high floor play in the sixth with some of these guys who I've drafted that have high ceilings but might be a little inconsistent week to week. And that makes me want to take Kirk, I think. I think Kirk's going to have a little bit more of a floor than Akers just because the offense is better. And PPR, I like Christian Kirk here a lot. So I'm going to go Christian Kirk.
Okay. I didn't expect that from you, to be honest with you. I really thought you were going to go Akers there.
Talk it up.
Yeah, I really, that was a complete 180 from what I thought you were going to do. But I don't hate it. Kirk seems very safe. What I'm looking at here, and I was hoping Akers or James Conner would get back to me. I'm also looking at Tyler Lockett. I'm really thinking about Tyler Lockett here. I'm not really a big fan of Kyle Pitts. As of you, I am completely fading him 180%. I will go take my luck somewhere else. But right now I'm between Connor. Go ahead.
I might take Pitts in the seventh if he falls, but he's not going to.
Dude,
but that's the.
This is fire in a bot draft. They're fading him.
That's kind of scary. Kind of scary. But right now I am between Connor, Lockett, and a part of me, I'm not there right now on Brown. I'm not taking Brown in the sixth. But I guess I'm between Lockett right now and Connor. I do have 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs so far. So, and it looks like my teams before me are going to be needing a running back. So I'm going to play the ADP devil's advocate here and hope Tyler Lockett makes himself back to me. Probably not, but I'm going to take James Conner here.
I like it. I like Conner.
Yeah, there goes Lockett.
What you said about the bad draft cap or the bad offense, Blake, with Conner, I can't argue that at all. But God, snap share is so sexy. Even if you don't put up a lot of points and you're playing 90% of the snaps, I'm just like, that's hot.
I agree.
A lot of 3 and outs, though. I mean, you're expecting Connor. Connor's great for PPR, but he also he's gotten a lot of his points in the past off touchdowns. I don't see them being anywhere near top half of the league in terms of points scored this year. I mean, they could very well finish last in points scored. So I don't want necessarily a running back on a team like that, but.
So right after Connor, we got Pacheco, Lockett, Brown, White, Pittman, and Dante Johnson, which I think was a great value in the 7th. I probably would have took him right there and then. And right now I'm kind of in a tough spot. I really don't like anyone on the board right here. I'm not really fond of Pickens. Mike Evans seems kind of early right here. I've seen him fall into the 8th, 9th round in some drafts. It looks like he's creeping up a little earlier than usual. And once again, here we are with Kyle Pitts on the board in the 7th round, and it's starting to sink in. Should I actually take him here? And when is enough enough? How far does he have to slide? And I'm really thinking about it now, and now it's there. It's became a value where it can't fall anymore, and I'm going to go against everything that I just said in the last 5 minutes about Kyle Pitts, and I'm going to take the value here and bet on the talent.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you don't love anybody there, getting a guy with a 5th round ADP in the 7th round is, I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. I'm glad you took him because I would have had the same dilemma if he had fallen to me, and I probably still would have faded him. And then if he had a big year, it would really
I get it.
But here we go. All right,
so how far he could fall.
Interesting. Yeah, a little experiment there. Yeah.
12th round.
So let's see. So here I am in the seventh. I have built my entire roster running back through flex. That means that I can. What I'm thinking is, do I want to add depth or do I want to fill quarterback, tight end? Still not super in love with the quarterbacks here. Deshaun Watson's interesting. But the difference between Deshaun Watson and, let's say, like Geno Smith or even Jared Goff, I don't think is enough for me to want to go ahead and take Watson here. There's still plenty of guys that I like in the middle of the seventh. Um, for tight end, Evan Ingram, he's actually the number one ADP right now and left on the board. I don't love him as much as you do. I think I'd rather wait a little bit and try and get better value at tight end. And having two running backs is nice. I filled both of my running back slots, but running backs get hurt all the time. And going into week one, I would feel a lot better about my team if I had a nice, solid running back replacement to sit there on my bench who I could start most weeks if injury or if he's just good enough to get into my lineup. And I think there's a player like that still on the board. There's actually a couple players, and I think I might go against what you guys are thinking I'm going to go. I'm not going to go David Montgomery here. I like Montgomery a lot here. I think he's in this season. I think he's going to get a lot of easy yards, easy touchdowns in that offensive line. I think that offense is going to explode, and Montgomery will get enough volume, even with Gibbs there, to have a really, really nice year. But over the last couple of weeks, I've really fallen in love with James Cook. I think that offense obviously is a tier above most offenses. It's them, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. I think we can agree in the top three. We'll see if the Jags get in there this year. The Lions, I think, are going to have a really nice year. But James Cook in that offense, he's a pass catching back. If this was half PPR, I'm taking Montgomery over Cook. I'm not even thinking about it. But since it's full PPR, and James Cook, I think, is a little bit more talented. They're both not the most talented players, both in really good situations. I think Cook's situation is a little bit better, so I'm going to go James Cook here.
I like it. I like it a lot. And
I just got sniped there a little bit for sure because I would have taken Cook. I really like him. I think that you're basically at the very, very tail end. I don't know. Some could argue Gibson is maybe like a really, a decent piece. Like, but you're at the end of that running backs where like you can feel good about having them. If you ask me, like you're almost start throwing after this, and so Cook I think could be really, really solid this year, and getting him in the seventh is a good pick. To your point, I like Evan Ingram. I'm not going to argue it. I'm not going to hide it. I'm looking at everything else, right, that's going to happen around me. I think, I'm not drafting David Njoku. Like, I'm not drafting Pat Fryermuth. I like Pat. I get it. Kenny Pickett's been throwing to him. I just think this is a more athletic player and a better offense who I think hopefully they paid him. Hopefully they're going to scheme him up and throw it to him like they did in the playoffs and to end the year. So I'm really heavily leaning towards Ingram here just to kind of plant my flag with the tight end position. Feel like I have someone who's going to be kind of a set it and forget it guy as opposed to having to stream the position. Like I've streamed the position a lot and it can be kind of rough. There's only so many difference makers, and I want to hope that I can get a difference maker. I think at this point there's so like the rookies, the wide receivers. I love JSN, but obviously as we're making this, he's going to miss the first couple games of the year with wrist surgery, and so I think that causes him. I think that'll fade him a little bit on this.
they did say there was a chance he comes back week 1, but
The latest update is like 4 weeks,
oh
which I
wow,
think is
okay,
like
that must have just
week
happened.
2 or 3. Yeah. So, anyways, and who knows? It could be sooner, right? They always have rushed Lockett back, but I got to make a pick here, and I think I'm gonna lean. To me, there's still some really good wide receiver and running back talent that's all comparable that I think I'm going to get on the back end here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to snag another tight end like Evan Ingram in an offense that good. Uh,
So Johnny,
so
real
now I'm
quick,
back on the board.
I wanted to play some devil's advocate. If Javonte Williams at Team 9 was still on the board, would you have taken him there?
Yeah, probably, maybe. I mean, because it was weird. They used him a lot in that preseason game where they activated him, and it makes you feel good, right? They're throwing him the ball. Seems like he could be a PPR monster. I just still think they're really gonna ease him in and like split
I agree.
snaps more than they might have let on. Like I think that was very planned, very deliberate, and maybe even a little bit misleading. And so, no, I think that I always fade running backs their first year back from an ACL unless their name's Adrian Peterson. You know what I mean? Uh, and I like Javonte Williams, but I don't think he's that like level of running back. So now I'm kind of in like shit hell, if you ask me, because it's like to your point, I almost maybe take Watson here and just bite the bullet at QB because I said I liked some of the players on the back end here, but that's when they like basic before they took like all of them right in the last four picks. They kind of sniped me. So now it's either take a quarterback. I don't hate like going for a QB later and like, you know, getting someone like Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith as compared to a Deshaun Watson. Like, I don't know if I think you're almost still reaching a little bit for Watson compared to what, or based on what we saw at the end of the year. Look, I love Watson when he was playing with Houston. It was very, very, very good. But um, I just don't know. I mean,
He
he's
makes you
probably the
nervous.
first person I see, and like I wouldn't pick Tony. I don't hate Tony as much as everyone else does, but I think he does have chronic knee injury. Uh, I think Burks, I'm kind of out on because he's also a little bit injury prone. I think that he, I don't want him to get rushed back for him to play a full season. And then I do like Gibson here. I think Gibson's going to be taken. I'd probably take him over Robinson in PPR, but this is kind of tough because they really did split the work in that preseason game where they played the starters. And I do think that game was telling. They really seemed to be running the offense how they wanted to run it. And it didn't look bad. And Antonio Gibson scored a touchdown, but I don't know, man. This is probably one of. I know I keep saying that the picks are tough, but this one's one of the tougher ones. Uh, I've still only drafted two running backs though, so I feel like I got to make. Huh, hmm. Yeah, we're gonna fade the QB position. And wait, let me just double check on running back, make sure I'm not missing anybody I really like.
Sure you don't want your man
I
over
think
there?
that
Brian Robinson? You don't want him?
Brian Robinson. That's the thing, dude. I know I get it. Robinson's probably the guy, but I really like Antonio Gibson's talent compared to him. And I think if Eric Bieniemy has balls, he'll just be like, "Let me run this offense and pass it to the guy who used to be a wide receiver. Like I got this."
Team nine
Yeah.
is take Fryermuth. Blake, you're up.
All right, so yeah, my pick the last couple of weeks to the month has is no longer here, and that's Josh Dotson. I think he's going to have a monster year. I'm glad he's not here because I don't want to be in a mock draft where something in real life that's not going to happen in real life. Dotson's going in the front of the eighth here, but there's no way in a couple of weeks he should probably slip into the early seventh. I would imagine with the toe injury to McLaurin, the fact that Sam Howell looks really good,
Oh
and
yeah.
just Dotson looks like a stud, man. I mean that wide receiver class last year, throwing him in that, I mean that's talking about the last couple of years, one of the best. So the fact that Dotson's not there, I have to think a little bit. I was gonna go Fryermuth, just because at this point, trying to decide between filling quarterback and tight end. Quarterback's just deeper. Tight end falls off a cliff pretty quickly, and I think Fryermuth would have been a nice floor option for me to get some consistency in that position. I don't hate Njoku. I think he showed a lot of what he can do last year, fighting through injuries. That's always been his thing, is staying healthy. But I think the talent's there. Watson should throw the ball a bunch. I think he can support two wide receivers and a tight end. They don't really have that pass catching back anymore. We'll see what Chubb does, but I like Njoku to get enough volume to finish to at least pay back his ADP here. And in fact, in my rankings, I think I have Njoku a couple slots higher than Ingram, just because I like the safety. Ingram's gonna could get you 30. He got 36 last year that one week, but there's a lot of weeks where he didn't do it for you at all. And I like Njoku this year to be a nice little balance between floor ceiling. That being said, there's a lot of guys that I would reach for here in a real draft. If I had a tight end right now, there's a couple of guys that I have my eye on that I really, really like a little bit deeper. And I won't say anything now. Hopefully they'll fall to me because I'm going to go ahead and take Njoku. They probably won't, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to take Njoku.
All right. Team 7, Burks. Team 6, we have Tua. Team 5, we have AJ Dillon. And now I'm on the clock. And I'm going to kind of give you some mock draft regret here. The Kyle Pitts pick, it's really coming back to bite me. And I wish at this point I have drafted Mike Evans as my wide receiver 3. But now I'm stuck with a guy that I didn't even want. So lesson learned here. Right now, the wide receiver,
third wide receiver.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So
I didn't even see that.
So that's exactly where I'm kind of at right now. Is I'm basically at the point where I just don't like my team because what's on the board at wide receiver 3 is not very eye appealing here. And as Kadarius Toney has as much upside as he wants in this Chiefs offense, he needs to be on the field, and he carries that injury risk. Brandon Cooks, I'm not really loving that as well. Michael Thomas, he's played like 3 games in 3 years. I'm about over Michael Thomas. I'm stuck here. I need to take a wide receiver. I wish I had a little more flexibility here, and I don't. But the guys I'm really looking at wide receiver wise that's going to carry some upside is I'm looking at Gabe Davis. There's a lot of people last year that thought he was going to have a breakout year. It didn't really happen. That doesn't necessarily mean it won't happen this year, but I'm looking for a guy that could win me a week or could possibly lose me a week, and that's Gabe Davis. And I'm going to pick Gabe Davis here and see what happens on this board because the people in front of him, I don't need a QB. I don't really like Toney. I don't like Cooks. I don't like Thomas. Quinn Johnson's there. That's pretty interesting. I can think about a stack there with Justin Herbert. I'm going to pass. I'm going to go with the upside, pick Gabe Davis. If Quinn Johnson's sitting there at the 904, then it's something to talk about. So let's see what happens.
I think Gabe Davis is a little impressed, or like the ADP is just kind of ridiculous. Wide receiver 2 in that offense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What were you say, Blake?
Yeah, wide receiver 2 in the Bills offense. And of your options there, I like him as much as anybody. There's a lot to be said too about the calm before the storm that everybody's breakout pick fails, ADP suppresses, get him the next year, he busts, and you get him later. And I like Gabe Davis. I like him a little bit more than I did, let's say 2 or 3 weeks ago, just thinking about the situation a little bit more. So yeah, I like that pick.
And then there was a little bit of wide receiver run. I really thought I would get Quinn Johnson here, but it really didn't happen. Brian Robinson, Rashad Penny, we had Johnston, Cooks, Thomas, Toney. I didn't want any of those guys anyway, so be it. And then we have Deshaun Watson here, and picking Justin Herbert in the 5th. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? So can't really pick Watson or Rodgers. We already got our guy at QB. Juju feels like one of those picks that are kind of gross that have 0 upside, and I don't really see this New England offense.
It's like eating your broccoli.
Yeah, I don't want to pick Juju Smith in a mock draft. I mean, that feels gross. But
yeah, mock especially.
I'm right now. I'm really between Zay Flowers and this may be a little bit of a reach, but Khalil Herbert. I think Herbert's going to be the guy in this offense. I know I don't really need another running back, but I feel that Khalil Herbert could flirt with RB2 potential this year if he gets the volume, and as the Bears do, they're going to run the ball. But I'm going to go against everything I just said about Herbert, and I'm going to go with some upside, and Zay Flower looks really, really nice. I'm going to be chasing him and see what happens this year.
Dude,
Zay was my guy there.
See that highlight last night?
Yeah.
His touchdown. He
looks very, very shifty.
I mean, they gave him that touchdown. That's some of the worst defense I've ever seen. But
they didn't want to tackle him.
He's my guy. I was hoping you were going to take Herbert. I was going to make you pay for it. Zay's going to have a nice year. That's a great pick. Herbert I do like. I like Herbert as well. I think of the running backs in this, the Samaje Perines, Rashad Penny's, you have Charbonnet there. Lots of dart throws, and I think Herbert may be my favorite of those dart throws. So I'm on the board. I hate these bots because they just 2 teams back to back. I was sure I was going to get Watson here just because everybody has a quarterback in front of me. In a real draft, I think I probably do get Watson.
Yeah.
Just because, the guy that took Allen just took him. So, I mean, he's got Josh Allen and Watson, stupid bot. And then that's fine. The next pick was Rodgers. Don't
It
want
was a
to
value he
really
couldn't
another
pass
guy.
up, bro.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I know
yeah.
we're getting fucked, dude. You and I didn't pick quarterbacks. They picked all the
Um,
quarterbacks.
I am so calm when it comes to quarterbacks, especially this
Yeah.
year. I think I never really rushed to take one. I especially this late. Like I said, I think the difference between Watson and Cousins, not that big of a deal. Cousins, for the record, would be my guy here over Anthony Richardson if I was going to take a quarterback, and I might end up going that route. I just want to make sure. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm going to hold off on quarterback a little bit longer just because there's so many guys that I like later.
I
And
know
with
who you're
taking
picking.
Njoku, I'm not taking Elijah Moore, but
Elijah the Prophet.
I thought about it. I thought about it. But this is my strategy sort of these days when I take Njoku in the 8th. I want to build 3 tight end sets now. I want to take upside on guys who I think are gonna get better throughout the season and maybe end up being a nice play like later in the year. And so I'm looking at Dalton Kincaid right now. I think it just makes too much sense to pass on somebody like that. That I have depth. I have my running back replacement. I have 4 receivers that I think are going to hit. And I like the upside with Dalton Kincaid, maybe not necessarily to start the year, but to pair with Njoku, I like the floor upside combination here. Now, before I take him, I'm looking at the people in front of me, and all of them took a tight end, and all of them took a tight end relatively recently. That means, unless Johnny snipes him from me, most of the time he's going to fall, especially because I'd be reaching for him at this set. So what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and wait on Kincaid and hope he's there in the 10th, and he will be my pick in the 10th. And that being said, I mean, Herbert's there. I like Herbert. Get a little bit more depth at running back. Elijah Moore is also there. I think Elijah Moore is going to have a really nice year. But I just took a Brown. I just took a receiver from Cleveland, and so that makes me a little bit cooler on Elijah Moore. We're getting into the point where it doesn't really matter if you have 1 or 2 players on the same team. But if I'm stacking him up to Herbert, Charbonnet is interesting too to pair because I have Kenneth Walker. Not necessarily a bad thing to go ahead and get the other
Get
guy
the
in that backfield.
insurance. Yeah.
But it can backfire too because let's say they both stay healthy the whole year. Let's say
Aaron
that's the
I
worst
Jones.
feel like
case
you're capping your
scenario.
upside too.
Yeah, but he wouldn't even be my RB3. He would be my RB4, and it would be of an insurance policy in the 9th round. I don't love taking insurance policy quite that early. I like a little bit more of like an 11th round insurance guy. But yeah, it's between maybe I go Kirk Cousins, Khalil Herbert, Charbonnet, Elijah Moore. I'm gonna go with my gut, and I really think that they like the player. They talked about it all last year. They drafted Roschon Johnson, but I think I was never that high on Roschon. A lot of people are Roschon truthers, but I think Khalil Herbert. I like Khalil Herbert too much to not take him here, and you just get a little bit more upside instead of taking Charbonnet having Walker. So I like Herbert there.
I feel like that was the best pick on the board right there. Herbert in the 9th. He almost went in double-digit rounds. You're potentially getting a guy that's going to be a starter this year in almost double-digit rounds. You got him in the late 9th. So that's amazing.
And to be clear, like I know they have Foreman too. I'm not worried about Foreman. He might not even make the team. It's less of a cap hit for them to cut him than I can't remember who their RB4 is right now, but I'm not worried about Foreman.
Yep.
Yeah,
They'll
Homer.
keep
Yeah,
Homer. That's right.
they might keep Homer
For
and drop
special
Foreman.
teams.
So
Yeah.
and he plays on special teams. Yeah,
They rested Herbert too. That was huge to me, dude. Like, and same.
Yeah.
This is the last. I won't pound this drum too hard, but same with ETN. Like all this Bigsby talk. I get it. Thinks Bigsby's good. They ran him into the ground in the preseason game while like ETN sitting on the sideline with a Gilligan hat. Like, we can look at how good the tape is, and that's all good and gravy, but it means something that they're not even suiting one guy up. That's if we say the same thing about Herbert, I think we say the same thing, in my opinion, about ETN versus Bigsby. I think those guys are clearly the RB1s in their backfield, and it's not particularly as close as maybe some other fantasy analysts are making it.
And to be clear, two really quick points. Also, with Herbert, you have to consider the rushing upside with Fields. So I've taken Dobbins and Khalil Herbert now, and so I've taken a little bit of a risk on 2 players where maybe their best running back on that team is their quarterback. Gonna eat into the red zone. And James Cook, too. So a lot of my running backs are on teams with really good rushing quarterbacks. Not something that I love to do, but it's not the worst sort of concession to make in these later rounds. I think there's a lot more risk you can take on other players. The guys are still going to get carries inside the 5 if they're the goal line back. They're still going to catch passes. And I took James Cook, for the record, for the PPR upside, not for touchdowns necessarily inside the 5-yard line.
Jonny, you got 3 minutes. You're on the clock. What's going on in your mind?
I'm making my pick, and I am taking. This is so funny because one of my bold predictions was Anthony Richardson falling as out of the top 20 QBs, and it really is that wide of a spectrum of outcomes. He could finish outside the fucking top 20 and get injured and not do very well. It wouldn't surprise me. He plays an injury-prone style, but if this guy stays healthy, it's just what you were talking about, Blake, a second ago. He could score half the rushing touchdowns for the dang team, right? And so Shane Steichen designed the offense that Hurts was successful with. I could see him doing some of those pile drivers and like those QB sneaks from 2 or 3 yards out into the end zone. I don't hate him here. I love Geno Smith as a value pick. I actually kind of like all 3 of these guys. But if I'll be dead honest with you, I'm just not sure that I'm going to get around to them. If I don't take them within these next couple of picks, and I'd rather reach on Richardson here for the upside, and honestly, maybe just grab one more QB with my last pick or something like that, and having a kind of a more safe pick with a higher floor. So doing it just to do it, but you guys know I don't love them.
I like Richardson there for the upside. I'm not even opposed to going quarterback back-to-back in this situation if I'm you. If
right.
Quarterback here, I think
that's what I'm like. We'll just see what I find.
If Cousins was there, would you have taken him?
Yeah, Cousins there to pair with Richardson, I think.
I would have double tapped that.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Like I said, I still really like Geno. I think Geno's got debatably better, like as good of weapons. I mean, I know he's got Jefferson, Cousins does, and Hawkinson, but like Geno's got 3 really elite receivers, 2 great backs, just a potent offense. I think is going to score a lot of points, and I'm not sure if I don't take him now, that he's going to make it back to me in that many picks. I almost guarantee it doesn't happen, right? And so I'm okay with it. I might reach for Geno here, to be honest with you, but that does feel like a reach to me. I'd probably prefer a guy like Elijah Moore, or even honestly, like I feel like Cortland Sutton, just with all the injuries, like Tim Patrick at this point, you start to have to believe this guy's going to be on the field a lot. And, I think me and you, Blake, are both Broncos fans. But I think
he's had a great camp.
We've seen the worst of him. I think he's starting to shake off the injury. What did you call you said that Pitts was lumbering. I think he was lumbering the past couple of years, and he's starting to finally look a little
He's
better.
Slimmer, so. He's faster, his routes are good. Like the thing last year, I took him last year, and I have no idea why. Watching him in camp, getting off the line, he had no release. He had no release at all. And he was a 1,000-yard receiver second year in the league. I mean, he's healthy. He's interesting there.
Yeah, but I think you just are trying to get me swayed so that you can have your pick of the litter between Kincaid and Moore and just really have your cake. Moore, I'll be honest, my biggest concern with him is just like staying healthy, staying on the field. I think he got banged up hitting the ribs just after a couple preseason snaps, and like that kind of stuff is sort of red flags to me. I like guys with more of a Cortland Sutton type of build. Like, yeah, he missed a lot of time with some injuries, but they were pretty significant injuries. They weren't just like soft tissue stuff. So, gosh, this is tough. I'm going to go with Cortland Sutton here, and we're just going to have to see what happens. I think I would have probably 9 times out of 10 bet on Elijah Moore, but for some reason, this is the one time I think that I'd like to build a roster with Sutton.
Yeah, I hit and miss on Sun last year too, so I get it. He actually had a lot of targets at the beginning of the year, and it just kind of fell off. So if you want to chase that in the double-digit rounds, I get it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's the 11th round or whatever, 9th round, 10th round. Take the guy with some upside there. I like it.
Speaking of which, let's run through these because I know people are probably we got to get this video
Yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah. So just
So
one thing that I would think about here. I know I said that I was going to smash Kincaid. I just would look if I was in a real draft. I would take the time to just make sure what's worst case scenario if I take quarterback one more round. Let's say people get greedy. A lot of guys go to quarterback. Worst case scenario is like Geno, Daniel Jones, and Jared Goff are off the board. Russell Wilson even could go. I mean, there's a lot of teams with one quarterback that could draft the second one. And then worst case scenarios is I'm stuck with like Derek Carr. That's a little scary to me. That's not something that I necessarily want to play with. I think I am going to go quarterback here just to avoid that possibility. There's still tight ends that I like later that I can build that 3 tight end build with. So it's between for me like Daniel Jones is there. I like Daniel Jones, but for me it's between Geno and Goff. I just think they're a little safer. Daniel Jones has the rushing, obviously, but I'm not sold on consistency, and he turns the ball over all the time. He got better last year, but still fumbles all the time, throws picks. I'm gonna go Geno just because of the offense. He was QB5 last year, had a great year out of nowhere. Yeah, I'm gonna go Geno.
Okay. Followed by Komet, P. Ryan, and your guy, tight end,
Yeah.
Kincaid
Once
off the
I pick
board.
Geno, I'm giving up Kincaid. Obviously, there's no way he's gonna be there. So
So right now, I am gonna go chasing some upside. I am just between. I'll make this short and quick. I'm between Sky Moore and Jamison Williams, and what makes me lean Williams over Sky Moore at this point is the ADP. I think potentially Sky Moore can make his way back to me. And right now, I'm really just chasing that upside of the wide receiver 3 hole I'm missing on my team between Davis and Flowers. I'm hoping one of these guys in the later rounds hits and makes up for that wide receiver Mike Evans and Kyle Pitts pick that I had. So right now, I will take Jamison Williams on the absolute talent and hope he hits and hope that Sky Moore somehow makes his way right
nice.
back to
There it
me,
is.
and I will double tap this and hope between the last 4 picks of the wide receivers I have, I hit on one of them to make them a wide receiver
Yeah,
3 on
I
my
actually
team.
really like the way your roster is filled out. You've got three solid running backs, two wide
mhm.
receivers who are really good. I don't hate Davis at
These are
all.
just
These
darts.
are solid picks.
These are just
Yeah.
darts.
Well,
Sky
yeah,
Moore could be gold or he could
Williams
be
missing
absolutely
six
nothing.
games, dude. Williams missing 6 games. I think he should basically not even be drafted. If you're asking me,
I agree.
that's almost me. But like, he's not Hopkins, right? So like, I don't know. I don't know. But anyways,
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit more worried about JMO the more I think about it, and the more I watch him, and the more I hear about how the organization has treated him in the last year or so. I just saw something about bringing in a lot of veteran guys like Calvin Johnson, and there was another guy that they brought in literally just to like hold his hand throughout, make sure that he was coming to the stadium, even though he was hurt, making sure that he was watching film. Like I don't like hearing stuff like that. I think he's talented. Seeing him drop that bomb in preseason isn't necessarily something that's going to throw me off him completely. But you don't love to see that either,
Right.
obviously. Um, but yeah, Jamo's I would draft him, but I don't think he should go undrafted. But it's interesting. All right, so now at this part of the draft, I'm looking for some flyers. I'm looking for high upside guys that haven't played before, just haven't proven it. That definitely have talent that could prove it. I'm looking at my roster construction. I did go wide receiver early, but since then I faded it. And honestly, now it's sort of a depth weakness for me. I only have 4 receivers. And there are some receivers that I like on the board. Jacoby Myers, interesting pick. I mean, he's their wide receiver too, I think. I mean, I don't know. He's a guy that catches a lot of balls. But once again, I'm looking for upside here. I think I'm going to fade Jacoby. I like Rashee Rice, actually. We're talking about Sky Moore being a guy that could hit. I personally think there are too many guys in that room right now to try and go pick one of them. But if one of them falls to me, like Sky Moore fell for you, I like that pick. I might pick Reishi here, but you know what? Actually, I'm looking at this guy, and it's a bit of a reach. It's quite a significant reach. And if I said this name, let's say 2 weeks ago, you would have laughed in my face and probably would have booted me from the thing we got going
The
here.
chat.
But I'm honestly looking at Romeo Dubs here. I like Dubs
Okay.
in terms of the volume. I mean, volume could be interesting. We don't know. They're gonna run the ball a lot. Jaden Reed looks really good. It is Jaden Reed, not Gerard Reed.
yeah, yeah,
I've faded
Jaden.
him for so long. Jaden Reed, yeah. Henry looks
Faded
good.
him for so long.
But Dubs looks like he could be, and this is camp stuff, camp rumors. I don't love buying into this stuff, but they've been saying basically since OTAs that he looks like he has the most chemistry with Jordan Love, and that's shown it. And now he's shown it in preseason enough to where I think I'm okay taking him and reaching here. That being said, he will be here the next round, and I'm just gonna go ahead and completely come out of left field. I'm gonna wait on Dubs. I think I'm gonna go Tank Bigsby here.
I like it.
Just because I just saw him, and I honestly think he has week to week flex appeal week one. With all this stuff that he looks great in the preseason. Never a bad idea to take another running back. I like Tank too much to not pick him.
Johnny, you're up.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I think I'm gonna go Jared Goff and live with the results of like who falls to me in the next 4 picks after, because I do want kind of an insurance policy with Richardson. I think that's the last really solid quarterback. Like I don't want to have to be stuck with Russell Wilson and have my fingers crossed that he'll be solid.
Interesting you took Goff over Wilson. I don't know if I would have did that,
Yeah.
but I don't blame you. Yeah, I feel like he's a little
dude.
safer.
Broncos
I
fans,
like
we've
Goff
just
a
been
lot more,
so
yeah.
burned.
And by the way, this is coming from Broncos fans, guys.
Yeah,
Well, that's
we've just
part of the
been
reason
so
because
burned.
we're Broncos fans. I mean, he's only
Yeah,
been on
we
the team
don't-
for 1 year. He beat us in a Super Bowl. Like we have
Yeah.
I don't
no
fuck Russell
allegiance
Wilson.
with that man.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they signed him, I was like, dude, do you know who your fans are? Because I never wanted this man.
I think
So
the pick
anyways,
doesn't matter.
what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say the pick. I think when it happened, it was received well, but it didn't take long
Yeah.
for us Broncos fans to realize that we got the raw end of that deal.
Oh, we got fucked. All right. So, anyways, I'll make this quick. I need another running back. I think people have overanalyzed the split with Robinson and Algier. He's probably just a handcuff. With that being said, he's probably the sexiest handcuff I've ever seen. What did he run for 1,000 yards last year?
He did.
Or-
He did.
Yeah, he did. He made
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I mean, like he's got the talent. I don't. I literally at this point in my draft still only have 3 running backs. I like Mostert's got probably a better role. And now that I think about that, I'm like, this guy really is the RB1 on that team, and he's being faded so hard. And like A Chain's literally injured, literally playing like fourth behind Savan Ahmed or whatever.
And they have Gaskin too, and Jeff Wilson.
And I mean, then you get into like these guys are all bona fide like backups, like we're talking about. And I think Mostert is 1A, 1B with Wilson on that depth chart, right? And so this is kind of who it's between for me, just because I'm at a position of need kind of there, and I'm really not. I get what you're saying about Dobbs. I'm not overly sold. I almost thought you were going to say Jalen Hyatt. But I think you just start throwing darts at wide receiver at that point. There's nothing wrong with that. But Mostert's going to get some volume. And I think you almost know Algier is going to get some volume. But I think the reason I'd pick him here is almost like if Bijan went down, he's got like top 10 upside, I would imagine. So we're going to do it. We're going to pick Algier. And that's the play.
It was a good pick. Cordell Patterson's there too, but
Yeah,
they like
yeah,
Algier
yeah.
a lot.
I think he would still kind of fill in that early down role. But
Yeah, he's
all right,
talented.
you're on the board.
So yeah, you mentioned Jalen Hyatt. That's interesting. I like. I'm starting to come around on Hyatt a little bit. I still don't love the profile. I don't love the route running skills. We haven't seen him face press. He's fast. I heard something that he would have run a faster 40, and that's part of the reason I faded him. He was dealing with a hamstring or something, so that makes me like him a little bit more. He balled out in that preseason game. Once again, he caught up all the blown coverage. This is how he got all his stuff in college. I think I'm still fading Hyatt pretty hard. So for me right now, it's between Dubs and grabbing another tight end. Laporta's there. Laporta's not as sexy as Kincaid, but he is enticing. I think I'm going to wait on tight end, and I'm going to go ahead and draft Romeo Doubs.
Okay.
All right, boys.
He's got his man Dobbs, Mooney, Laporta.
After this pick, John, it'll be the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, 2 more rounds after this.
Yeah, to give you guys like some real insight here, these are dart throws. This is the end of your draft. We have no kickers in defense here. These are guys that are home run hitters. We are throwing a Hail Mary and hope they hit. So there's really no analytical things. We're not drafting Sky Moore telling you he's a surefire pick. It's a home run hit. We're swinging for the fences here.
They're smart picks where they're being made, like they're, it's informed on maybe stats, maybe some stuff, right? Like snap share.
Of course.
You're picking Sky Moore there because he's going to be a prominent part of that high scoring offense, right? So, yeah, these are dart throws. These guys haven't all proven that they're high end fantasy producers, but there's still these are some picks that can win you the leagues if you make some really smart decisions,
And I'm actually glad you brought up that point, because the next guy I'm going to pick is definitely a reach, and I'm more chasing and hoping he becomes the wide receiver one for this team. It feels like I'm building a dynasty team with Flowers and Williams and Sky Moore, but I'm going to get Jonathan Mingo here and hope he develops into that type of guy. That is 5 wide receivers in a row for me. This is a little out of the norm. I will be brutally honest with myself. I'm not too happy of how this draft fell for me, but that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing mock drafts. And to follow that up, I think right now, I have plenty of wide receivers, and I'm going to double down and try to get somebody along the lines, who would be a nice safe option for me?
I'm calling this out. You've got Najee Harris.
Yeah, I was just gonna
say. At this point,
I agree. I agree. And this late, that's exactly where I was going. I was between Miller and Warren here, and now that I have Najee, it kind of makes sense to kind of get the handcuff.
Well, it's so juicy right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Like this is
where getting the handcuff doesn't feel bad. Even though it's a mock, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'm going to get Jaylen Warren here and smash him at the 13-4.
Well, because, worst case, everything that all the naysayers on Najee say comes true, then you're good. You know what I mean? I don't know. The guy just ran a 60-yard touchdown on the one carry he got. I think his ADP will go up. I think that's a good pick.
I think he's a special player.
He's all right. I mean, but the fact that he literally fell to you with you having Najee, I've tried to get insurance backs before, and I always get sniped. It just always happens, right? When I want to skip at the end.
Meant to be, seems like. The insert community loves Warren. Absolutely love him. I don't think they're going to be able to keep him off the field. I think it's going to be a little bit closer with Snapchat than people think. I would have taken Warren there if he had fallen. I'm looking at a pick that I think is kind of interesting. It's a strategy play, especially if you have an IR slot on your team and you go quarterback late. I don't think it's a bad idea to pick Kyler Murray here.
Absolutely.
You can throw him in the IR slot, and then you basically get an extra pick in the draft once waivers start rolling. I'm going to go ahead and take Kyler.
I like it, yeah, and because you've got a guy like Gino who is going to be good, and
that's he'll get me there.
Come on for you and be even better than Gino maybe later.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're at the end. To your point, though, about dart throws, I mean, these guys like Brock Purdy, Justin Ross literally might not make a roster, right? Like Kareem Hunt's not on a team. This is where the leagues are won and lost.
Yeah.
So,
or just end up on the waiver wire week 4.
How many
week 2.
Yeah.
I have 5 wide receivers. Okay, so that's not that bad. But I'm like, who would I go with if I want wide receiver? I probably lean KJ. Just because I think he'll get the most. I don't know. Shark might be number 1 in that offense, but I like KJ more. And then Kendre is also kind of interesting to me. I go Kendre. I like that catch. I'm sure you guys all saw it. I like
that. Catch was nice. Yeah. He looks like a player, and that's the thing. They didn't think he could catch coming out of college. They just didn't ask him to do it. He looks like he can do both. He also scored.
That was a beautiful diving catch. Yeah, I mean he's had some. I saw some tape where I was like, he seems like he's kind of missing the hole, but. Who knows? The first couple of weeks, he could really come on strong with Kamara missing time. I think people just really have no idea what's going to happen. And
he's the perfect late round flyer, Kendrick Miller. for that reason.
Right back to you,
Yeah, and
Johnny.
so I know, and this is my last pick, and so it's like, let's get creative, let's have some fun here, maybe. And I've got Ingram. I don't hate getting another tight end here, but in reality, like I want to be somewhat real about this. I would probably pick up another wide receiver in a three wide receiver league just to have it kind of checked off.
It feels tough, and I know what you
I'm doing
mean.
it.
Go ahead.
I'm tripling down on my guy, Isaiah
Why not?
Simmons. Total reach.
Why not, right?
You know what? He's gonna show up. He's gonna score a touchdown in the first week. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But if he does, everyone will be like, "Oh shit! Yeah, what have we been doing?" Like that's the guy who Danny Dimes was throwing to all at the end of last year too. Like,
Mhm.
uh, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
don't hit
wide
the
receiver
pick.
one in that offense.
All right. So a couple rounds ago, I was talking about how I wanted, since I drafted a tight end later, usually my approach afterwards is to grab two more tight ends before the end of the draft. And I still haven't grabbed one. I think I'm definitely going to go tight end here. Just because there's a guy here that, honestly, he's buried pretty far down even the tight end list, the remaining dregs of the position, but I can't really understand why. And this is a guy I thought you might take, Johnny, because you absolutely love him. I've been ending basically every single one of my mock drafts by taking Jake Ferguson, regarding
Oh my
regardless
God.
regardless of whether or not I took a tight end early, late. I mean, Dak loves his tight ends. There's no receivers left here that I'm willing to take a shot on. I could see myself taking Deuce Vaughn there, maybe, but I think Jake Ferguson in that offense, especially with Shoemaker missing time, that was a big thing for me. I think the position
That's a
battle,
like
it's not even a battle. I think Ferguson's got it, and I think it's a pretty
Yeah,
safe
he
pick.
was
And
resting.
I think it's a pretty nice luxury to have, and knowing you can take him pretty much anywhere, and fading the position, taking somebody like Njoku in the ninth, and then getting Ferguson.
Dude, I wouldn't hate, and to your point, like this is the very disciplined way if you're asking me and I'm looking back. You can take Gino and Ferg as your quarterback and your tight end and basically fade those two positions and grab guys like, you know, George Pickens, James Cook instead of reaching for Dak Prescott's and stuff along the way and really build out those position players and still have
Yeah,
QB and a tight end that are going to produce tight
and to
end
be
one
fair,
numbers.
I'd
I
much
mean,
rather have like a Mahomes, Hurts, Mark Andrews on
yeah,
my team,
we all would.
but I would rather have the value for Gino than taking like Dak in the ninth.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Or, dude, even Mahomes at pick 11, dude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
that's
just
early for Mahomes. I would
so
take I
rough.
would, the earliest I would take Mahomes is in the second. If I drafted Kelsey in the first, I'd maybe think about stacking. But
Stack it up.
it's a bit early, obviously.
I will.
Okay, bring us home.
Yeah, I will finish this draft and let the computer one, two, and three take us home. I think we've all kind of agreed that the Giants wide receiver core is up for grabs, and in that case,
Big
I'm
hit.
going to get Paris Campbell. I think he probably has the measurables to make this happen. In no way, certain degree, do I think he can possibly win me a league. But if he becomes the wide receiver one for this team, I'd be pretty happy on where I'm drafting him. So I'm going to take Paris
Couldn't
Campbell
even
here.
find him.
Yeah.
Couldn't even find him in
Yeah.
the ADP.
Well, he was way down there. Way down there. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I think the draft ended with Wilson, Pickett, and Stafford was actually the last pick, which seems so wrong, but that's how it ended.
Wild.
But
Dude, that's kind of stinky.
yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys before we log off, how do you guys feel? What would you rate your team? And I'll go with you, Johnny, first. What would you give yourself on this draft grade?
I'd give it a 7. I think I've got some solid running backs that I built around, really solid one wide receiver. Um, I, I don't know if any of these guys are extremely high end wide receivers. They all offer some good upside. Feel good at the tight end position. This quarterback, I think this is a win. Like a really, I'm either gonna crush it or I'm either gonna suck. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the strategy.
Okay. How about you, Blake? How do you feel?
I feel pretty good, man. Like in these three wide receiver drafts, I mean, it's one thing to love your first three picks if you go wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, but it's always another thing to take the risk and then wind up with like James Conner as your RB1. Not saying he's a bad player, but I like the running backs that I built around. I think my team, I probably like it more than maybe the average person watching this, just because I don't know. I feel like the players I picked are pretty popular.
I feel like you got everyone you wanted. That's the thing.
I got everybody I wanted. That's what I was going to end with. I got all of my guys basically. Johnny sniped Ayuk for me, but that's okay. The Christian Kirk pick, I think, in retrospect, I was thinking about it as it happened, and especially a couple rounds later, maybe would have rather gone. So I went Kirk and James Cook there. I took James Cook basically just because I wanted a running back there, not necessarily would have taken him over Jahan Dotson if I had gone running back a round earlier. I think in retrospect, I would have gone Dalvin in the 6th, or somebody like Dalvin or Akers in the 6th, and then taking Jahan Dotson in the 7th. I think would have been an A+. But I'm happy with the draft if as long as the QB tight end fades don't hurt me too much.
Okay, I will give myself. Oof, I'm gonna be my harshest critic. I'm gonna give myself a 6 out of 10. I feel like that's even too high. I probably give myself a 5 out of 10. I really don't like the Kyle picks. I probably said this 3 times already, but I wish I drafted Mike Evans there and I went back around and got Njoku in the 8th, and I would have felt so much better about my team. But I did. It's okay. It's all right. It could have been way worse. If Kyle Pitts hits, I will feel great about it in the 7th. But usually when I don't take, Kelsey, Andrews, those top tier tight ends, I usually wait almost into the double digit rounds to go grab my guy. So getting Kyle Pitts in the 7th was definitely a surprise. I didn't expect it, but it happened. Give myself a 6 out of 10, and I had fun.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to like downgrade your results after getting value. Like, I mean, the Pitts pick might not be sexy, but it's incredible value, man. Like, I think that improves your overall draft. And to be honest, I don't like Mike Evans that much anyway.
No.
Like, maybe on that build, like
right.
I like him on a wide receiver 3. I don't mind it. You know what I mean? I don't like Mike Evans either.
You came around and you, to your point, hammered wide receiver, and not just with like bullshit players, like a legit wide receiver 2 in a great offense, a first round rookie, another first round guy, a guy who second round, second year elite offense. Like, yeah, there's a bit of a gamble here, but the chance that one of these pans out into
Exactly,
a starter
and that's what it is
extremely high. And then
you just need one to hit.
Exactly. That's where the strategy comes into play.
Hits are so close is kind of an interesting takeaway too, because just Pitts is such a good athlete, and I think has been a fantasy darling, and now you're starting to see I don't think I really reached for Ingram, but that's just how far Pitts fell, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, interesting draft. I think I actually really like your team, John, from top to bottom, especially the fact that you were able to wrap with Warren. I just hope Ridley, if Ridley stays healthy, now that I look at this, just talking out loud, I'm like, man, I almost like Chris Godwin more than I like Calvin Ridley. That's how crazy I think my draft unfolded for me. I'm like, I think I reached on Ridley maybe a little bit, but I think I felt like I needed to, because this was a 3 wide receiver league and I started off with running backs of it too the first 3 rounds. So maybe something I would have done differently. But then when you look at it, it's like it was, yeah, I don't know.
In some formats, Ridley is going on a 2-3 turns, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot. Decent value.
Okay. I don't think a lot of people would hate that pick. I think a lot of people would say you got good value on Ridley, to be honest. I think that's right. I think that's right about where I would take him. A little end of the third maybe. But yeah, I think it's good value.
All right, guys. Well, sorry, I'm going to wrap it up for you guys. So this was our mock draft. We got plenty of more videos coming out. We're going to keep it nice and steady for the regular season. But yeah, let us know down in the comments section which team you like the most out of all 3 of us, and maybe you like a computer as well. So let me know. We're gonna put that down in the comment. Who knows? You might like Team 5 way more than my team. So, but yeah, we'll keep it short and sweet. Even though we kind of staggered on with this conversation, but we wanted to be thorough and we wanted to give you as much information as possible. So we're gonna sign off, guys. Blake, Johnny, appreciate your time. And we'll see you in the next video.
this quarterback. I think this is a win. Like a really, I'm either gonna crush it or I'm either gonna suck. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the strategy.
I feel pretty good, man. Like in these three wide receiver drafts, I mean, it's one thing to love your first three picks if you go wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, but it's always another thing to take the risk and then wind up with, like what I wanted. That's what I was going to end with. I got all of my guys basically. Johnny sniped Ayuk for me, but that's okay. The Christian Kirk pick, I think, in retrospect, I was thinking about it as it happened, and especially a couple rounds later, maybe would have rather gone. So I went Kirk and James Cook there. I took James Cook basically just because I wanted a running back there, not necessarily James Conner as your RB1. Not saying he's a bad player, but I like the running backs that I built around. I think my team, I probably like it more than maybe the average person watching this, just because I don't know. I feel like the players I picked are pretty popular. Would have taken him over Jahan Dotson if I had gone running back a round earlier. I think in retrospect, I would have gone Dalvin in the sixth, or somebody like Dalvin or Akers in the sixth, and then taking Jahan Dotson in the seventh. I think would have been an A+. But I'm happy with the draft. If as long as the QB tight end fades don't hurt me too much.
Okay. I will give myself. Oof, I'm gonna be my harshest critic. I'm gonna give myself a 6 out of 10. I feel like that's even too high. I probably give myself a 5 out of 10. I really don't like the Kyle Pitts. I probably said this 3 times already, but I wish I drafted Mike Evans there and I went back around and got Njoku in the 8th, and I would have felt so much better about my team. But
Dude,
I
your
did.
team's solid.
It's okay. It's all right. It could have been way worse. If Kyle Pitts hits, I will feel great about it in the 7th. But usually when I don't take, Kelsey, Andrews, those top tier tight ends, I usually wait almost into the double digit rounds to go grab my guy. So getting Kyle Pitts in the 7th was definitely a surprise. I didn't expect it, but it happened. Give myself a 6 out of 10, and I had fun.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to like downgrade your results after getting value. Like, I mean, the Pitts pick might not be sexy, but it's incredible value, man. Like, I think that improves your overall draft. And to be honest, I don't like Mike Evans that much anyway.
No.
Like, maybe on that build, like on
I like him on a wide receiver 3. I don't mind it. You know what I mean? I don't like Mike Evans either.
You came around and you, to your point, hammered wide receiver, and not just with like bullshit players, like a legit wide receiver 2 in a great offense, a first round rookie, another first round guy, a guy who, second round, second year elite offense. Like, yeah, there's a bit of a gamble here, but the chance that one of these pans out into
Exactly.
a starter
And that's what it is
extremely high. And then
you just need one to hit.
Exactly. That's where the strategy comes into play.
Hits are so close is kind of an interesting takeaway too, because just Pitts is such a good athlete, and I think has been a fantasy darling, and now you're starting to see like I don't think I really reached for Ingram, but that's just how far Pitts fell, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting draft. I think I actually really like your team, John, from top to bottom, especially the fact that you were able to wrap with Warren. I just hope Ridley, if Ridley stays healthy, like now that I look at this, just talking out loud, I'm like, man, I almost like Chris Godwin more than I like Calvin Ridley. That's how crazy
Wow.
I think my draft unfolded for me. I'm like, I think I reached on Ridley maybe a little bit, but I think I felt like I needed to.
Yeah.
Because this was a 3 wide receiver league, and I started off with running backs of it too, the first 3 rounds. So maybe something I would have done differently. But then, like, when you look at it, it's like it was, yeah, I don't know.
In some formats, Ridley is going on the 2-3 turns, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot.
Value.
I don't
Okay.
think a lot of people would hate that pick. I think a lot of people would say you got good value on Ridley, to be honest. I think that's right. I think that's right about where I would take him. A little end of the third maybe. But yeah, I think it's good value.
All right, guys. Well,
guys. Oh.
Sorry, I'm going to wrap it up for you guys. So this was our mock draft. We got plenty of more videos coming out. We're going to keep it nice and steady for the regular season. But yeah, let us know down in the comments section which team you like the most out of all 3 of us. And maybe you like a computer as well. So let me know. We're going to put that down in the comment. Who knows? You might like Team 5 way more than my team. So, but yeah, we'll keep it short and sweet, even though we kind of staggered on with this conversation, but we wanted to be thorough and we wanted to give you as much information as possible. So we're going to sign off, guys. Blake, Johnny, appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next video.